Hey guys, Nick here with another video. This is probably going to be the last one of these I did do for a while because quite frankly, after going through this, all I can say is...
Ow, that hurt my brains. Ow.
Um, now, the question that was posed was to challenge me to look at Republico, Tommy Tallarico's Equity Crowdfunding on there, or as they call it, crowdfunding, is how it was referred to me, on the site. And this was to raise funds for the Intellivision Amico. That's what it's for. So, in order to do that, I had to do some digging. Now, I have done a good chunk of digging this morning, enough that I now have a minor headache. So, let's go ahead and dig into what I found. Please keep in mind, I am not a CFO. I have no financial background. I am not qualified to speak in any professional terms on any of the stuff that's being covered. This is simply what I was able to discover and what conclusion I came to as a result. Okay? So, with that said, let's get started. Now, the first thing I had to look up was Kickstarter versus Equity Crowdfunding. Now, Republic Co. is an equity crowdfunding site. That is their purpose. Kickstarter is a good starting point for understanding the process, but basically that's for taking an idea or a prototype and taking it completely to execution. That relies totally on basically taking the funds, building the product, and building it specifically to that market. It does not give more investment to go past the initial funding it takes to get things out to those backers, but you have to be able to get everything out to your backers that way. Now, that's not to say that equity crowdfunding doesn't mean the same thing, it's just done in a different manner. So, whereas Kickstarter may have a project with a small seed of being able to needing $50,000 and supply something to say 5,000 backers, so it's about maybe $10 to $50 a piece. All the items are delivered. You may or may not see any more of those items. That's pretty much it, unless they get enough equity out of that and make enough profit out of it that they continue to make that function as a business. Now, that happens all the time on Kickstarter. That's not uncommon. Equity crowdfunding takes a different tact, whereas basically creativity and quality crowdfunding should not be thought of as taking a back seat, but when profitability comes into play, investors will likely make more informed decisions, leading to more sustainable business ventures. So the point is usually in an equity crowdfunding, you're not so much given a tangible object as you're given more stock and stake in the company. More of a reason to stay invested and to continuously support said product or venture. Okay? That's kind of what I get from the difference between the two of those. Now, that's very high level. There's a lot more technical things on there. But here's their assessment of it here, where basically they say that, you now have access to vetted screening of companies, because that's part of what Republico does. You can invest comfortable amounts as easily as you shop online. And you can be involved in the exciting world of angels, entrepreneurs, and startups. So what Republic Code does is it allows you to fund these ventures with any monetary amount or whatever the minimum is set up for that funding campaign. Okay? Once you've done that, you now have basically stake in the company. Not take much to sign up for an account. I did it inside like 2 seconds with Facebook. Quite literally, it took me like 2 minutes. Now, don't think I still have the page up. I will endeavor to put some pictures up of various different disclosures. But basically, they essentially say, invest at your own risk. We're not liable for anything. These are startups. Some of them make, some of them don't make. Now, that said, Republic does try to do a few things to try to make sure that the companies are vetted. Those go into initial screening, where they look at the founders, they look at the product, they look at the amount of potential traction there is on the product, and they look at the mission statement for the actual company. 2, They kind of start to do their own due diligence. After they determine that the startup is a good fit, they kick off a formal due diligence process. So they review the pitch deck, conduct screening calls, search to better understand the startup's business, and if necessary, they tap into their networks to help them evaluate these following factors. The business model. How does it intend to make money and how much can it make? Social impact. How big is their impact and how will they fulfill their mission? Market. How large and disruptive can the business be? What advantages do they have over competitors? Technology. How is the technology used to solve the problem? Is it unique or difficult to replicate? Team. Beyond the founders, does the team have the right people in the appropriate roles, including experienced advisors? Fact checking. Is this information presented in the pitch true? We verify key facts, contacts, and investments. Terms. The valid valuation cap and other terms appropriate given the startup's current stage and traction. So basically, how far can they get? Runway. Does the startup have enough runway to survive without the Republic campaign? Are the funding goals reasonable for the startup's runway? Basically, how much do they need and how long are they going to be able to run on it? Eligibility. Does the startup meet the legal criteria for regulated crowdfunding offering? We do a thorough financial and legal review and run background checks on founders and officers. All companies must be U.S. based. That's Republic's criteria. So, you ask, well, they're just shady. They're just there to take your money. Well, I couldn't find anything on that either. I went to Yield Talk. They have basically a 5-star rating on Yield Talk. The investment types are venture, real estate, and video games and entertainment. Sectors are everywhere from agriculture, childcare, fashion, hardware, media, mobile, pets, retail, residential, real estate, and video games. Minimum investment is $10 and it's open to all investors. The pros are that it's a low minimum investment, it's mission oriented for investor groups, it has an excellent investor education content, detailed and digestible investor presentation, exceptional design and user experience, customizable autopilot option. Cons, high risk, low liquidity, meaning you can't liquefy very quickly. I also went to Merchant Maverick, where it has like a 3.5-star rating. It's a smidge low, but it seems okay. So basically they say it's an quality crowdfunding from non-accredited investors, low investment minimums, strong company vetting gives backers reassurance. The cons are high fees, can't collect funds if you don't hit your funding goal, and Republic is exclusive and not for small startups. So, this company started in 2016, is when it was established. They have a main location in New York City and they have another one in California, which may have been another factor in Tommy Tellerico going to that particular company, because he's in California as well. So that gives him much easier access if he needs to show up in person somewhere, even during these trying times. So, with that said, his site, which I thought I had up, yeah, here we go, which has been up since October of last year, appears here. They've raised X amount a month, they have this many investors, and it still has 91 days to be able to invest. You can see I can opt in to invest, but the minimum is $1,000. Pretty rich for my blood, not something I'm likely going to do. The maximum investment is $1 million. What this does is this gives you FGS-Amico shares. FGS is the type of security bond / stock option that Republic Co. offers. This is their stock. It's issued by Fig Publishing. So that gives you stake in the company, okay? This does not get you an Amico. It doesn't. This gets you invested in the company. That's all it's for. That's exactly what this is for. This is specifically for investors to raise more capital because they need a significant amount of capital to be able to raise the amount they needed for manufacturing of the consoles so that they can get them out the stores. They have agreements with companies like Amazon, Walmart, GameStop. GameStop already has it up on pre-order as well. And if you go out to the Intellivision site, you have two options to be able to pre-order. So here's the pre-order for the United States. You can either pre-order on Fig. Fig is a subsidiary of Republic Co. Okay? How I found that out is I went to Tech Republic. Tech Republic stated that Republic acquires Fig, adding games to its startup and crowdfunding program. That happened on April 17th of last year. That was a couple months before Tommy did his funding campaign. So when you go into pre-order, you can either pre-order here or you can pre-order on GameStop. GameStop has different options than Fig. Okay? So those are your options. If you're investing on Fig, you're going through Republic Co. or basically a subsidiary and you're pre-ordering there. If you go to GameStop, you're going through GameStop. GameStop has their agreement with Intellivision. Alright? So as far as the company goes, do I think there's anything shady or unreasonable here? I couldn't find anything. Okay? I legit couldn't find anything. I looked and looked and looked. And the company seems fine. Even when you go to their website, I mean, if you've got freaking SpaceX on your site and they raise this much with you, then you're good. My understanding is this site has finished 250 different campaigns since they started. And these are all various different campaigns that they've done. I'm familiar with Carta. I'm definitely familiar with SpaceX. If you're familiar with the space race, you're aware of SpaceX. So, with that said, I can't find anything wrong with the company. So, the other thing was, what about the allegations on Tommy not answering questions correctly on their actual campaign? Okay? So, let's take a look at that. As you can see, I'm kind of exhausted on this whole thing. So, as we scroll down, this is basically their pitch site. As you go down, you can see comments. Now, here are all the various different people that are basically investors and involved. Two important names of note: Tommy Tallarico, of course, and Nick Richards, the COO and CFO, Chief Operating Officer and Chief Financial Officer for Intellivision. Okay? As we scroll down, you're going to see these people in this conversation. So, this was the other allegation of them using stock photos, which Tommy has already admitted, yes, they use stock photos because they'd rather use that money in order to basically invest in trying to get the product to launch rather than setting up photo shoots and paying people money for that. So we're just going to ditch this one, okay? This isn't part of what you guys initially asked me to look at. I'm only mentioning it because it's there. Okay? So, here's where the main problem starts. Alan Jeffrey. This was the name I was given. Television CEO stated Amico is not a crowdfunding game console, but Republic classifies this investment offering as a crowdfunding campaign, which is not allowed in Ontario. Is this correct? What protection does the SEC provide for my investment, stock, share, or quality purchase? Are there potential returns completely arbitrary, and what's the likelihood I could receive nothing for my investment entirely? Okay, so this whole thing basically gets answered by Chuck Pettit, okay? This guy owns Republic Co. He basically works for Republic Co. And I have to find him. I apologize. This is a little disorganized. It's been a long day. Here he is. CF Portal, GP at Rainmake, worked at Merrill, Pinnacle, repeated founder, active investors, study business in Nebraska, and Fort Helm. So this guy works for Republic, okay? So he's the one answering this question before anything ever even starts. So basically he goes through and says countless numbers of CEOs and founders have stated they would never participate in crowdfunding, and then they do. It's because operations like Republic educate the CEO, founder of their team, their investors, and board of benefits, investment crowdfunding, and not mistaken with rewards crowdfunding like Kickstarter. It's still in its infancy, but it's growing rapidly, with 2020 being the best year on record for the industry. Investors from Ontario are not allowed to invest in U.S.-based investment crowdfunding campaigns utilizing Reg CF, Reg A securities exemptions. Okay, if you invest, you're purchasing preferred shares of Fig Publishing, Inc. The offering was qualified by the SEC, and Fig is a Reg A plus reporting company. The SEC does not provide protections to investors. It is a regulator which supervises the conduct of the industry participants. SEC qualification is not an endorsement of the following security, but it does mean that Fig met the standards necessary to sell our shares to the general public. Basically, they're saying, no guarantees it's going to get off the ground, but we're willing to sell you stock. If you're willing to roll the dice. It's like any other stock investment that you do. You're investing, hoping that business is going to make money. That's the purpose. So he goes through and he shows basically the graphing and everything like that. Okay? So, Alan Jeffrey, who we'll get more on him in a minute, Thanks him for the informative response. Is basically wants to know more about the documentation for the 100,000 units pre-sold and the 25 million in purchase pre-orders. Are those legally binding representations of this opportunity? Yes, as you can see, all the disclosure about the offering in the Amico game console is Form 1A linked above, although not required by the SEC. FIG has reviewed the pre-order documentation provided by Intellivision. So this has been independently verified by FIG from what Tommy handed them when they wanted to start their campaign. All this was verified on the up and up. I still don't see a problem, from what I can tell, okay? So, here's the first mistake in this whole thing. Tommy chimes in. Tommy, man, I wouldn't have done this. I'll be honest. I would not have made this statement. It's not that it's a bad statement. It's just I would have let your CFO handle it. So, you just wanted to add to the discussion about the first question. I personally do not consider Regulation A investment on the same level or category as a reward crowdfunding such as Kickstarter and Indiegogo. Those platforms are mostly used to take a vision from idea to reality. When working on the Amico, we already had 3 full years before putting in our SEC Regulation A approval. I hope this helps clear up your thoughts. That didn't clear up anything even for me. Because his next thing is, to be honest, it only adds more confusion. And he's right, it does actually kind of confuse and muddy the waters. I was about to pull the trigger on a speculative investment, and we'll get into that. But your comments have been cause for concern. What on earth is wrong with crowdfunding? Okay, the answer to that is there's nothing wrong with crowdfunding. However, they were looking for a more equity invested option, not just making things for Kickstarter, right? A Kickstarter option, you have to do things specifically for the backers. You can't get things out. They already had agreements in place or had already been working on doing agreements, so they need to be able to bring those to market for companies like Amazon and Walmart, etc. Kickstarter, generally, you need to fund that. You need to get things out to the backers first before you can ever produce anything for the main retail market. That's not the direction they wanted to go. So that's kind of why I think they went this route. That's just me. I don't know anything. Not a financial officer. Many great products have been brought to market through crowdfunding. This is correct also. And the investment crowdfunding is a valid option. Also correct. If you're saying that you don't agree with your own governing SEC regulations and the funding partners on this, what is the investment crowdfunding is? I have a lot of concerns about the validity of your games, in particular the assurances of the 25 million in pre-orders. Now, I don't know where that number came from. I'm assuming that means they have other retailers that have ordered some, plus the people that have pre-ordered from them directly or from FIG or GameStop or whatever. They're probably tallying all those numbers together, and that's where they got their number. This is a fundamental factor for establishing evaluation on potential investment, and I don't see anything to adequately document any assurances and those orders are being guaranteed won't evaporate once you have my funds. Okay. Now, if something doesn't meet its goal or something happens, pre-orders can and have been canceled. Now, I don't know what the requirement is for Republic as far as doing refunds on any of this stuff, or if more than likely what it is there is no fallout for you. There is no I get my money back, okay? Because you're investing in a startup. A startup will either go or it will fail. Or it may go for a little while and then fail. So you may see all of your investment and then some come back to you, or you may see none of your investment coming back to you. That's the stock market, guys. It really is. So this guy basically wants to know that he's going to get all his money back and more before this ever goes anywhere. And that's impossible to predict. You just can't. Okay? So after that, now Nick Richards steps in. And my man Tommy, well, you ain't my man yet, but I like you, man. But I would have just like tagged in Nick like right away, because this guy just boom, he's just knocking this right out the park for you. Okay, as the CFO of Intellivision, I would like to address a few of your concerns for the projected outcomes of the business. Back in early 2018, when we mapped out the business strategy, we concluded that crowdfunding strategy is limited in what the most common at the time, the regular crowdfunding article, blah, 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 blah. This is a lot of technobabble that I don't understand. Frequently referred to simply crowdfunding was not a feasible option. Based on the plan that we had determined in the business, we would need at least 7 to 10 million capital to successfully launch. Given that the regulation crowdfunding limited to a maximum of 1,770,000 per 12-month period, it would literally take close to a decade to bring a product to market. This I couldn't find any confirmation of. I will be honest. This statement here, I'm going to have to go with his expertise on this, because I frankly couldn't find anything. And it may be that until you're going through these processes and you're trying to start up on these things, you don't get in the know on any of this. It's just not common knowledge until you're starting something. Many of the comments made by Tommy would never consider crowdfunding are based on these facts. Capitalizing a new video game console company with so little funds would surely be a disaster and was thus not considered. We moved forward with a traditional equity seed round, which is very close to what this is doing. As we explored the post-seed round and fund strategy, we met with Chuck and his team at Fig. At the time, we're heading down the path to be acquired by Republic. We're interested in Fig's approach to Regulation A funding, and Regulation A, or Regulation A falls under a different part of CRF than crowdfunding, Article 17, Chapter 2, Part 230, General Rules and Regulations, Securities Act 1933, Regulation A, Constitutional Small Business Expedition, Reg A, subset of the broader public office structure and not part of, and I've gone cross-eyed. So, by no means are Tommy's comments an attempt to confuse investors or undermine our own decisions about our fundraising strategy. Basically, what he said is at the time when we were going through this process, the viability of being able to crowdfund on Kickstarter wasn't there. So they were looking for another avenue. And when they finally came down the avenue and they had this talk with them, it was basically explained to them that they could raise the money they needed and they could do it in this manner. So they ended up on reg.com. He then goes on to say, with regard to your projection of possible fraud, myself and other founders invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in years of our lives in this business, just as board members invested $2 million of their own money in this business. Suggest that a management team that has a long track record of success in respective fields, and a board which includes outside board members, and has a company that's participating in securities offering to SEC, just to confirm fraud on its investors, is a pretty aggressive statement for the Public Investment Forum. There's really no response to this other than to say that we're not committing fraud against our investors. And he's right. It's a pretty heavy accusation. Lastly, you mentioned the interest of being able to get some coverage for our sales pipeline. We have 2 successful special edition pre-order sales and purchase commitments through North American retailers, GameStop, Walmart, Best Buy, Amazon, via distributor, and a number of European retailers. Koga Media, Media Market, Saturn, GameStop, Mueller, DeGraw, Carrefour, Amazon, and there's a bunch of these I can't even pronounce. Others extending out to Australia, New Zealand. We don't typically publish our distributor allotments, as it could create some channel conflict between various different retailers. If you're truly interested in learning more about our business as a potential investor, I'm happy to get on the phone and discuss any specific concern you might have. So basically, he goes along and he basically says that we're aware of the difference, blah, 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 seeking confirmations. And then after this talk, which he didn't take him up on the Zoom conference call, from what I can tell, it basically seems that this was not going to be equitable, and the two basically parted ways. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at Jeffrey here. Jeffrey only has comments in relation to Amico. These are the only things that he's ever done. He joined on January 2021. That was several months after the Amico was actually established on there. He doesn't follow anyone, and he doesn't have any followers. There are no investments on this page. Now, if he had investments, you can privatize those, but it will tell you that this profile is private. Okay? Now, I'm not going to pull up too many others on here other than like one more, which is the guy at the very top that we talked about earlier. You go to him, basically the same thing. He's only made things on the Amico. He started in January of 2021 on the exact same day, doesn't follow anyone, doesn't have anything, and doesn't have any investments. If you look at one of the other people that's in here that actually wanted to do an investment, this person here, and I apologize for this, she has multiple investments. She's on Dollaride, Very Fortune Movie, Azura, Atara. She has a profile here. She's following multiple people. She's got multiple followers, and here's some of her posts. That is a more normal profile. Now, I did that to basically show you that these profiles seem suspect. Now, they could have joined because they were excited for the Amico. They had some questions, and after they got the questions answered, they were no longer interested. And they didn't find anything else on Republic Code that actually interested them, so they just bowed out. That's entirely possible. But the fact that they both joined in the same month, probably on the same day, only to basically state this stuff and start this fight that seemed to go on between primarily the CFO of the company and the potential investor, and one guy that just wanted to go, hey, you're using stock photos, Just seems suspicious, guys. I can't find anything that really makes me feel like this is something that's legitimate. That is pretty much what I have been able to find. I don't have anything else that I can go into with this. I spent hours and now 25 minutes recording this to basically go over how this works with you guys and what I found. Hopefully you found it informative. Hopefully you understand the fact that I just can't find anything here. I mean, if you wanted me to find something, that's one thing, that's fine. I can't. I don't know of anything. I don't get it. It's on the up and up. It seems like Tommy's just trying to get more funds to be able to get this done in a timely manner so that he can bring the product out, which is not uncommon in a capital venture. It's not uncommon at all. So, if you don't like it, go ahead and downvote it. Join the channel just to follow, just to basically bag on people and stuff like that. You're probably going to be very bored because I'm probably not going to be doing a ton of Intellivision after this, because this one just made me want to go find the Tylenol. Hopefully it was at least informative, and I suspect that the people that posed the question, this will not change your mind, and you're just going to argue with me about it more. And I'm going to stop you right here because I'm not talking about it anymore. I don't see a problem. I can't find a problem. This is me proving I can't find a problem. The only problem I can find is with the people that popped up that put these generic photos up. They didn't even put photos of themselves. They just put generic ass photos up here, just stock photos of somebody in here for their portrait. They basically come in here and start stuff. Now, and there's even accusations in here from like Nick and all this other mess about threats to family and all this other crap. And I'm not going into that, okay? We're not going there. The company, from everything I found, is on the up and up. Anytime you do an investment in a company, you're getting stock in a company. If the company takes off, you're probably going to make more money than what you invested if the company does well. If it doesn't, then you're probably going to lose your money. That's pretty normal. That's in their guidelines when you sign up for the site, that you run the risk of not making any money off your investment. So you need to be smart and invest wisely. If you're not comfortable with it, then don't invest. And that's exactly what happened here. Intellivision and Tommy, who probably shouldn't have spoken up in this particular case, I feel like, spoke up and tried to answer these questions and try to basically help this person understand the process and what they were about and what they were getting into. And they still weren't interested. It seemed like they came in with the intent of being antagonistic from the get-go. And that's exactly what they did. Wow, 28 minutes on this. Okay, hopefully it's informative for somebody. Find it great. If you want to argue, go somewhere else. I'm not arguing this. This is what I found. This is where I landed. Quite frankly, just don't care enough anymore to do any more on it, and I don't want to think about it anymore. I'm still hopeful that the system will come out and the system will do well. And I would like the console to do well for the same reason I would like the Atari VCS to do well, and that's because it's a console. And another console on the market is a good thing. If you're just here to bag on it and break things down and keep the market small, get out. I have no interest in speaking to you. It doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help you. It doesn't help me. It doesn't help the market. If you're interested in that and you have a personal vendetta against Tommy, get out. No interest in speaking to you. At all. I don't have any personal grudge against Tommy. I'm not on a one-on-one basis on Tommy. I know people that are excited for the Intellivision, and I may buy one to share that experience with them. I am not going to go down into the muck with you. I'm not going to have those conversations with you. And if you continue harassing people that come to my channel to watch the content that I make and enjoy the content that I make, if you do that, I will ban you. If you come back on another account, I will ban you again. And I will do it until the end of time. Because the one thing you will learn about me on this channel is I am insanely stubborn. Is answered by the fact that I just spent 30 minutes of your life going into technobabble that I don't even understand very well to try to get an answer to something that you posed to me. You guys did this. You asked me to dig into this, and this is what I found. If you want an answer that incriminates Tommy, you're in the wrong place because I couldn't find it. I didn't expect to find it. I kind of hoped I found something because you brought it up and I wasted hours of my life on it and I found nothing. Nothing. Okay? So, if you like my content, please keep watching my content. I love having you on my channel. If you're just here to troll and you have no interest in my content and you just want to attack people and you just want to attack Tommy, get out. I mean it. I don't want to deal with it. I cannot spend all day filtering comments and filtering out arguments with you guys. I will start banning people. Okay? That's all there is to it. I mean to go out on a negative note. I am very glad if you made it this far in the video. Kudos to you. It was a pretty dry topic. I will be going back to regular programming, which won't be quite as Amico focused, because I've done a lot on Amico recently, and I have other topics I want to cover that are interesting to me as well. Now, that said, hopefully you found this video informative and interesting, and hopefully it answered your question that you posed to me and anybody else that came here looking for information on it and also found something interesting or proved or disproved whatever your current thesis is. Mine is that Tommy's not doing anything wrong. Republic Co. is a fine, upstanding company from everything I've been able to tell, and they're basically trying to garner funds to be able to bring this console to market. That is where I stand on this. That's as much as I could find on this, and I don't think I'm going to find anything different. So, with that said, hopefully you guys had a good rest of your day, and until next time, happy gaming.